There is a movement promoting our stories, and many of us grew up with a strong craving for images we can relate to. Production teams, writers, creative heads have come together to tell stories, and this podcast is their voice. The themes covered are very relevant to the Black community, and anyone concerned by the social and racial injustices that are in place to stifle this voice. The Pan-African voice is not easily heard, and here we talk about our movies, that film or doc which you heard about but didn't get to see. What was the story? Where can I watch it? It now has a voice. Tune in. We walk you through these stories and interview the filmmakers. Welcome. Karibu sana. Karibu sana.
And starting right on the lens. Ready? And action.
I am so excited for this amazing panel. I barely slept last night. I couldn't wait to meet you guys. So let's get right into it, shall we? Okay. What does access mean to you, and how has that definition evolved in your career?
When I think of access to Hollywood, I kind of think of it from a different perspective because I started off in finance, and to me, Hollywood is a business. So I look at it as pure like supply and demand, and what is there, and obviously that's evolved, and that access to me looks more like barriers to entry to an industry. So here today at the Black Writers Weekend, I really want to encourage everyone to think of us as bigger than the US. And so bigger than Hollywood. So where does it come? We now have Nollywood, we have Bollywood, and it's really more about defining us more on a global platform for me, and getting our own setup, not trying to knock on doors to like, be told no or yes or whatever. It's really supply and demand, and I see that has evolved. When I started off 20 years ago doing workshops, we brought Hollywood cinematographers, writers to Kenya and things like that, but 20 years later, it looks very different.
You've carved a lane at the intersection of sports and storytelling. What's your secret to making culture feel both personal and universal on screen?
So, as I was saying, like a lot of things when I come from kind of looking from the outside, a different lens, as an African American community, a lot of times we don't see ourselves beyond the US. And so a lot of times you might like put a joke, it might be just one liner in your script in a TV show, but it's just limited to African American community. And so you're already shutting down a whole other audience, just like a few jokes that somebody might not get. So I just would encourage everyone to just think of your audience before you pick up your pen. And then when you think of your audience, don't think of starting at disadvantage, like I've got to go convince Hollywood my story's worthy. But actually think of your story in terms of who's my audience. It could be someone with that same issue that you're trying to describe in Brazil, in South Africa, somewhere completely different, where there are huge, lucrative markets available to you. And so when you write it, make it more like broader, so that everyone else can get it. That theme, whatever the core message is, make sure we all.
I love it. And you said you're not from here, so for those that don't know, where are you from?
From here now.
Oh, yeah, now. You said that, okay. No problem.
No, it's okay. Yeah, you might be here a long time, Jess. I've been around.
Okay, that's fine. Tamra, Surviving R. Kelly was groundbreaking. I love the documentary, by the way. Yes. A round of applause for that. Yeah. What was the emotional and creative responsibility of producing that story, and how do you protect your peace while handling difficult truths?
These questions don't pertain to me. No, just first of all, I didn't create Survivor R. Kelly because I was like trying to take a Black man down, because that's what typically is said. But it was understanding the voices that hadn't been heard, like my other counterparts' voices have been heard. But I looked at us, and I was like, we don't talk about what goes on or what happens to us, because that's what we were taught, not to speak about it and keep it in the family, that sort of thing. So when I was like aware of that, it was my duty as a Black woman, not even as a producer, but a Black woman and a mother, to make sure that these women's voices were heard. So the emotional part of it, I didn't go into it saying, we're going to produce a documentary, this is what's going to happen, he's going to get arrested. None of that. I was just like, let's tell your story. I don't care if it's on Atlanta Live 11, like, just get your story out there. So it became very emotional, taxing when I realized that some of these women never went to therapy. They never shared their story because they didn't think anybody was going to believe them. And I had to understand also, like, as a mother, some of it happened when they were like younger and that sort of thing. So I think the pandemic, because I did it pre-pandemic, I started producing it, and then the pandemic happened. It kind of helped me recover from the first season. So it was like the documentary came out, and then like, oh, you've been nominated for this, nominated for that. I'm like, why do you get awards for something that we should be talking about anyways? So it was like mind-boggling to me that you actually can get awards for these type of stories, because I came from reality TV. That was my first documentary, and that was my first time executive producing. I was just a producer on the other ones, but I was just like, why? I felt bad because I was getting nominated for awards and all these achievements and things that I didn't even know existed. And so I had this guilty, conscience because I didn't do it to be known or to be famous or anything like that. I really wanted these women's stories to be told. And so during the pandemic, it allowed me to actually go to therapy because I was holding so many people's secrets. Mm-hmm. People that didn't want to talk on camera. There's so many more women that told me stories off camera. And at the end of that documentary, I was very proud of it, but I was more proud of the women and the families that spoke up for their loved ones. And when the network asked me to do it again, I said no. I said, I can't do it. And then they said, Tamra, this is your baby. Like, this, you started it, you have to finish it. And I remember Bree Bryant, she was the head at Lifetime, and she said, T, this is yours. You have to finish it. I still said no. You can't pay me enough money, you can't do anything. I said no. And then, thank you. Oh yeah, I'm a crybaby too, sorry. And then it was one of the victims' mothers said, Tamra, you helped us out so much, like, we can't do this without you. And I said, well, I'll do it for you, but I'm not doing it for a network or a check or anything like that. So we did season 2. And then I said, but I cannot do like I did in season 1. I can't be as attached to it. So we would end up hiring a showrunner, an EP that was far removed emotionally because I couldn't produce like I was supposed to produce because, So then we did that, and then they wanted to follow the trial. And I said, I thought you guys said we're done after season 2. So we followed the trial, and then at the trial, I couldn't go to the trial because people knew who I was, and there was people that were subpoenaed on R. Kelly's side and that sort of thing. So I stayed in my hotel, but they found out where I was, and basically, I was almost kidnapped, trying to just finish a job that I feel like God allowed me to start, but I knew that I was taking a risk. So I don't want to take up too much time, but it's very emotional. It still is emotional. My son had to go live with my ex-husband. I had to protect my kids. And so producing is hard. And sometimes you don't know that how deep it's going to go, but if it's a vision that you have, it's something you want to accomplish, you know that it's going to be rewarding for others, not just for yourself. That's what keeps you going, and it is hard to do, but would I do it again? Yes, but I may need all y'all to help me.
We got you, sis. You did. What advice would you give to someone who feels like they're always one connection away, but never quite in the door? Like they're almost there, but they're not in the door. What advice would you give them?
My biggest advice is pivot.
Oh, okay.
You gotta pivot. Especially as creative, you have to start off with your vision, and it's your vision, and you want to see it to the end. but the flexibility that is needed in a team effort. Filmmaking is a team effort. You know, when you write, especially for you authors who are out there, and it's so individual, the effort is that you carrying it all on your back. This vision is gonna change. Just accept that from the go and be able to pivot. So that's really my biggest advice. I also created the Pan-African Film Podcast, really to give some of those answers. So the different, I feature documentaries, shorts, features, all sorts, and they tell you their experience in the podcast. This is what I had trouble with, this is what I had challenges with. And you get to hear how they address those challenges, you know? And that way you can just kind of see you're not alone. Sometimes you can also feel alienated.
I think for me, it's hard for me to answer that because usually I am the connection, you know?
Okay.
That's how I heard the question. So I'm trying to reverse think it if I were a person that...
So when you were starting off,
Oh.
right? How did you ever have opportunities when you were like,
Yeah, so I think that if say you're a writer and you got everything, your package is together, now you want to try to figure out who you're going to pitch it to and who you're going to go to, but you don't have that connection. It's kind of like what Gia said. You got to go to like certain events, look up and see like who's going to be where, buy you a ticket, go to those events and like network. Networking is really, really the way in Hollywood because it's relationships. You can have the best idea, you can have the best director, but if aren't really like that director has to be connected also to a network. So I believe having a network is really, and then like what Anna was saying, the flexibility, because sometimes people, I've read scripts and I've read documentaries and docuseries, and I was like, oh, can you change just a little bit? Are you open to change? Some people are like, no, I'm not changing anything. I'm like, okay, well, it's gonna stay in your computer. I don't know what to tell you. But I was like, if you change this, you know, then, you know, it may help you just to be flexible. It's very hard, I must say, for writers to be flexible because that's their baby. They're married to it, like, and so I'm like, I know this is your baby, so I tiptoe around, and that's why I was joking with Anna. She's very like blunt and direct, and like, you have to do this, you have to do that. I'm like, oh, it's good, but you know, like, and like, so you have to be very careful. But a lot of writers are like, I want to write it. I don't want anybody else to write it. I'm like, look, I've sold a script, I sold a show without a script before. When I realized that I could sell a show without a script, I was like, why are people writing? Like, you know, because they might change it anyways, or the network has their own writers that they want to pull in, or they're like, oh, you know, like, Sheena's great for this, you know. So you also have to be open to not just it being you, that your project is, you know, that your project is like partnered with, like you have to partner with other people as well and be open to that. I feel like that's where half the battle is connecting. You connect to the right people, but you're so stuck in your ways. Nobody can help you.
yeah. You guys are inspiring me and motivating me. I don't know. Do you guys feel inspired? Yes. Okay. Next question for the panel. We often hear, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. What does preparation look like behind the scenes?
I think for me, I actually work sorry to say.
Everything is the opposite for Anna.
Sorry. To be that person. But like, I guess because I started off in finance, like I over-research things.
I want the money first.
So for me, it's the other way around. Like I've done a project where I've done the research for 20 years. You know, it's scaling back. So what are the essentials for preparation? For me, I usually scale back. Like, okay, don't overthink it, don't over-research. But for anybody, the essentials for me is, and this goes for finance, producing, writing, know your audience. So I can't go somewhere and not know my audience. If I'm pitching, I need to know that person who's potentially giving me money. What are they looking for? What have they funded in the last 2 years? What is their 5-year kind of plan? Like, what are they looking for? So that basically by the time you're speaking, it's not falling on like unfertile ears. You're kind of talking their language. And that comes with researching your audience. So, and then again, to translate that in the actual content, you know, this is little Anna in high school in Nairobi, Kenya. We used to watch reruns of like the Eddie Murphy, again, I'm giving my age now, but like, you know, Eddie Murphy, VHS tapes, all the way there. Because he went, like there were a lot of stand-up comedians around that same time, but like somehow they didn't translate to a broader audience. You know, if you watch Dangerous by Eddie Murphy, every joke is just global. You could get it anywhere. He's doing all these scenes, but everything, you could catch it wherever you are. And there's just little tweaks that will broaden your audience. So that's really key in terms of starting off with who am I writing for? And if it is just an African-American story, then that's great. At least you know. At least you know who's going to buy it, who's going to watch it, and you know who you're targeting. But if you're looking for more, make sure that the person who's watching it can understand.
Thank you. And how do you balance, so all of you, how do you balance honoring your community while still pushing boundaries in your craft?
Do you think I have boundaries? For me, I think I'm like a pusher anyways, by nature, but I'm a soft pusher. You don't know that I'm pushing until you're pushed, kind of thing. So when I was able to see that I created a platform where I would have access that Black and brown people do not have, I knew that I had to continue to like push myself through, not just for myself, but for others. So for me, I just continue to be in the faces of those that are not like mine and continue to have conversations, continue to play pickleball, those things, continue to network basically and connect. And it really helps when you're trying to talk about your vision for a project and how you want it to go, how you want it done. They listen. But if you're not a person that doesn't have that platform, it's a different answer. But for myself, I knew that I had created this platform to where I can continue to be in those rooms so I can bring others into the room with me. For those authors that have books or that you're writing books and you're publishing your books, you guys are in demand in Hollywood because if you look at Netflix, you look at Hulu, you look at all these streaming platforms, they literally are, everything's by a novel, based on this book, based on this. So that's how you kind of know, like, it's your time. So by us being at Black Writers Weekend, I'm assuming that you guys are authors and things like that. I can sell more scripted shows now than I can documentaries, just because it's based on a book.
Yeah, I do want to add to that. It's true, like, you don't have to see yourself as, how do I get to them? You are the asset. You have something that people want. It's in demand. It's how you're going to meet that demand that you need to find you. And I did start a retreat specifically for screenwriters. So you can check that out because you will be paired with a mentor. And it is about, like, each story is different. So getting the time, with somebody. If you submit your script on our website, you get access to the virtual component at least. That will happen next year. You'll be paired with a mentor if your script is successful. So I definitely encourage that because I saw it's something that's really needed for us.
And what is the name of your retreat?
It's the Pangea Writers Retreat.
Okay.
And the format again is Pan-African. So we launched it last year down here in on the Gullah area, where we did our first retreat. And it was funny to see somebody here from the retreat yesterday. It was really great. And so because it's Pan-African in nature, we're going to alternate between the continent and the diaspora in the location. So the next one is in Kenya.
Thank you. So we're going to open the floor to Q&A. So if anyone has a question, you can come to the mic. Thank you. And tell us your name and where you're from.
My name is Pamela. I'm from Alabama, Bessemer. Tamra, to say that you answered my question before I could even really ask it, but I was going to ask, I know every show, movie, even if it's not starting out with a full manuscript, eventually somebody has to sit down and write to bring it to life. So with me being an author, I wanted to push that lane. However, the more I write, the more I can visualize what I'm writing. So I just kind of wanted to ask you all, what type of advice for self-preparation, so that when I do get ready to present or pitch to someone about transitioning my book, what type of self-preparation would you recommend that someone like me master before moving forward?
Gia can answer because she's cutthroat.
Yeah, you really are leaving behind any kind of emotional attachment and understanding that as an author, publishing is your goal, right? But as a screenwriter, you want to have a whole team, X amount of money dedicated to bring your story onto a screen. And so when you put yourself out there, you are entering a market. So yeah, you need to do your research as to your audience, who are the investors you're talking to, how you're going to pitch it. In terms of, there is specific, obviously, you could research that on your own, specific elements that are required, deck, budget, etc. But in terms of your personal preparation, you do have to detach a lot.
Where rhythm drums strong, riders unite after a whole year gone. Heritage and history blended so sweet, a family reunion beat by beat. Ink on the page, hearts in a dance, past meets the future at every chance. Creativity flows like a beat so true, a family reunion, this joy is for you. Good vibes all rise and change on the way. We celebrate each other, our spirits play. Black writers speaking minds and flow. Together we rise, let our power